From Relay, this is Upgrade, episode 602 for February 9th, 2026. This episode is brought to you by Delete Me, Factor, and 1Password. My name is Mike Hurley, and I'm joined by Jason Snell. Hi, Jason.
Hi, Mike Hurley. Good to be back. Good to have you here. Now, listeners of the podcast, I mean, we just do a podcast every Monday, and they don't even know, but I was gone on vacation all last week, so that was pretty great. But we pre-recorded, so
we did.
It's like we didn't miss a beat.
It feels like it was a long time since we last recorded, but it was just like 3 extra days more than normal.
I was closer to our friend Jeremy in Australia than I was to you.
Wow.
Which is
Amazing.
weird.
Amazing.
But that's what happens when you fly out into the middle of the Pacific Ocean. I went to Hawaii. If people had not decoded that.
Look at Hawaii on a map. I remember before I went the first time, Gray forced me to open Apple Maps and take a look at where Hawaii is on the map. Yes. And I was like, oh, my word. I thought it was way closer to America than that.
If you rotate a globe, and you can get the globe to be almost entirely Pacific Ocean.
Yep.
And then you go like, and there's Hawaii right there in the middle, right in the middle.
It's a beautiful place, but it's terrifying.
Just to give people an idea of how far away it is. So I was as far away from Jeremy in Melbourne as I was from Dan in Boston. So think of the 5.5 hour flight from Boston to San Francisco, and then another 5 hour flight from San Francisco to Hawaii. It's a long way. Like, it's a long way, but it's still only halfway to Australia.
I think, like, at least time zone wise, it is the exact opposite side of the world to me, because it's 12-hour difference between here and Hawaii.
No, it's 10 right now.
Is it 10? Okay.
It's 10.
When I was there, it was more. Maybe
11. It goes because they don't do daylight savings. So it was this time of year you drop 2 hours. It's very funny for us because West Coasters aren't used to flying east home. And so we're not used to that kind of jet lag. I'm used to flying the other direction for everything else, literally everything else, except if Hawaii or New Zealand. So that's been interesting to try to get up in the morning. But it was great. I love it. I mean, I counted how many. I'm not going to say how many times I've been to Hawaii, but it's a large number in my life because I love it so much. It's my favorite.
And I
place
love
in the
getting
world.
photos when you're there. And you
so many chickens, Mike. Oh my God, so many chickens running around. Oh, they're the beautiful, beautiful big chickens. As we left, the rental car guy was like, it's just like when we go to the mainland and we see squirrels. And he was like, they're just pests, but it's fun for us. We love to see those chickens running around.
I have a Snell Talk question for you that comes from Ed, and Ed wants to know, Jason, who are you cheering for in the Olympic curling tournament, and do you think anyone can beat Rachel Homan?
Rachel Homan's the skip of the Canadian women's team, by the way, for people who are not in the know. I am cheering for the U.S. for 2 reasons. One is I am a USAian, and two, curling coverage in the U.S. is largely of the American team until you get to the finals or the various playoff tournament parts, the knockout parts. That's just a natural thing. And what I would say is the more attention given to curling by American media, which success by Americans helps that a whole lot, the more attention is paid. The more attention is paid to our sport. And that means the more people who are interested, and that means the more people who are going to go to their local curling club, including ours, to try it, and that makes more curlers, and that makes more members. And our club is a volunteer-led operation, and so we need the members are what keep it going and pay the rent and the electrical bill on keeping the ice in Oakland for Bay Area Curling Club. So I want America to do well, not just because I am from there, but also because it will increase the visibility that we have in the U.S. and create more curlers in the U.S. because we want more.
If you'd like to send in a Snell Talk question for us to open a future episode of the show with, just go to upgradefeedback.com and send yours in.
Oh, and Ed, sure, anyone could beat Rachel Homan. I mean, she might win. Right. Canada, very powerful, although they got knocked out of they didn't even make the medal round for mixed doubles. But, anybody can beat anybody at any time. But yes, the UK, Mike, because the Scots who invented it.
Technically Great Britain.
It's right, Team GB. That's right, because the Irish, Northern Ireland puts their people on the Irish team. Is that right? Or nowhere? How does that work?
Genuinely Don't know.
I don't know. I think maybe they do. So yes, it's Team GB. Team GB. It's basically Scotland, though. Let's just put it that way. Scotland invented curling, and the Scots are very good at curling, and so they are favorites, and the Canadians are always favorites because the Canadians are the ones who kind of like kept the torch lit. And there are lots of other countries involved. Italy's got a good team in mixed doubles right now. So we'll see. And then the U.S. team is fun. The men's team is fun this year. Men and women both qualified. Kind of like nail biters, so I'm not sure they're gonna medal, but the men's team is fun because it's a young skip, and so it's a different crew from the Will Schuster crew that won the gold medal a while back and has still been going. So anyway, it's fun. I recommend people check it out if you're in the U.S. CNBC has it on weekends. It's on USA Network some of the time, and it's all on Peacock. So the mixed doubles is about to end, but the men and women will then start up, and those go with the rest. It's the only sport that plays on every day of the Winter Olympics. In fact, +2. They started 2 days before the Winter Olympics started because they've got these two different events. It is a lot of curling, but we've been watching. So great thing about flying back from Hawaii, we're on Southwest, and they have live TV, and one of the channels they had was CNBC, and it was a Saturday, and the curling was on, and so we just watched curling on the plane live. It was awesome. That flight went by fast. That was so great. So yeah, curling, it's great.
So we're called Team GB, but it is the United Kingdom. So
I don't know why, and it's GBR is the symbol, and I don't know why.
Yeah,
Team GB.
So it says it is the Great Britain and Northern Ireland Olympic team.
Okay.
But we use the branding Team GB.
Okay, interesting. I think I read somewhere that there were the people from Northern Ireland could play for the Irish Olympic team, but there's lots Olympic qualification is
into that.
Olympic qualification is very interesting, right? Like Puerto Rico has a team. This is a great segue, by the way. Puerto Rico, where Bad Bunny is from, has its own team, even though it is also it is a territory, which is why it has its own team of the United States, and everybody in Puerto Rico is a U.S. citizen. So there are some interesting quirks, let's just say, about what countries are countries for Olympic purposes. And I also think it's funny that, like, for soccer purposes, there is no Team GB. This is actually a problem during the soccer tournament in the Summer Olympics. Is everything in the UK is by country. So there's a Scottish league and an English league, but you have to have Team GB for soccer, and it's very confusing. And so anyway, I don't know how you people do your thing, but there was like one person on the Puerto Rico team. Anyway, Bad Bunny, he was at the Super Bowl.
So continuing the sports conversation, we'll do our annual Super Bowl. We actually do talk about the Super Bowl in some.
Oh, do we?
Yeah, every year we talk about it.
It's a Monday podcast. I get. I mean, you listen wherever you want, dear listeners, but we record Monday morning. So we are Monday morning quarterbacking it right now. This is what's happening.
I always want to talk about two things, which is the halftime show and the ads.
And the ads. So, yeah, you're a big sports guy, big football guy, big American football guy.
I just take out all the sports from the whole event.
Yep.
Do you have any thoughts on the game?
I'm waiting for the altcast where it's just the ads in the halftime show, and that during the rest of it they fill that with, I don't know, kittens or puppies or whatever. For people who don't care about the football but do care about the ads. I think that would be a fun, like, inverse alternative cast stream
just turn away. All ads and replace the ads with football.
Ooh, interesting.
Flip it.
Interesting.
Flip it. So do you have any thoughts on the game? I assume you watched it.
It was not a very good game. It was clear that the Seattle Seahawks were the best team in football, I think, all year. I thought that was pretty clear. And that's what you would hope. That side of the tournament, the NFC, was a more powerful, stacked group. I didn't think that either Denver or New England, who were the final teams, were. I mean, not that they didn't have great seasons, but I look at the teams on the other side of the bracket, and they were all better. I think the Rams were better. I think the 49ers were better. I mean, I honestly think so. The Seattle, the LA Rams, and the San Francisco 49ers are all in the same division. I think they're probably the three best teams in football this year. So it was stacked, and I thought it was pretty clear that the Seahawks were the best team by far. And it's a cool story because Sam Darnold, who was the quarterback of Seattle, he was a high draft pick. He went to the Jets. I repeat myself when I say he was a massive failure and letdown because I already said he went to the Jets. But he rehabbed his career. He went to San Francisco and did a year of sort of like This is becoming a thing where failed quarterbacks who actually have a lot of talent go to San Francisco and they get a year or two as a backup, and they get to work with Kyle Shanahan, who is a brilliant head coach and a brilliant offensive mind, and it's like almost like rehab for quarterbacks. And then he went and had a great year in Minnesota, and then he went and had Minnesota didn't want him. I don't know why. And then he went and had a great year in Seattle. It's just great. It's a classic. Even if you know nothing about football, it is this wonderful redemption story of this guy who was so well thought of out of college at USC and then became a bust and a laughingstock, which New York likes to do. If you show any weakness at all, New York media will destroy you. And then he kind of got his head together, and now he is a Super Bowl winning quarterback. So that is awesome.
That's a good story.
It's a nice story. It's a nice story, but it wasn't much of a game. So, they dominated. Their defense is amazing, and they dominated. So, yeah.
But as Zoe mentioned, it is the Apple Music halftime show, so it is technically within our remit.
It is. It is true. It is the Apple Music halftime show. I mean, we could talk about it anyway, but now even more so. Even more so. I like they had that effect where you go through like a tunnel and it's the Apple logo. You kind of like enter the Apple logo and it becomes like a hyperspace tunnel that leads you to the halftime show. I thought that was kind of cool.
The halftime show was great. I expected it would be, and it was. It was brilliant. The production was fantastic.
The production. I mean, it was like watching a movie, and the fact that they were doing it live, just amazing. I mean, they cranked it down right. I think it was 24 frames a second, so it looks like a movie. I remember when the halftime shows used to be from the cameras they used to shoot the game, and it's like, no, don't do that. So super theatrical.
Yeah. Bad Bunny's tour was very visually distinct, right? Like he would have the kind of house that he would perform on. And so I'm happy that they brought that aesthetic to the Super Bowl halftime show as well. Like, it looks really good.
All those transitions where they're like, there's a pre-tape bit, and then you realize now we're in the actual stadium, and you can start to see the things that are happening. And he falls off he does the trust fall off the side into the hands, and he falls through the roof down below into a little pre-tape bit, and then comes out. I thought that was funny because he falls through the roof, and then on the inside of the house, he's got like all this plaster dust all over him. And then when he steps out, he's perfectly immaculate, but he still brushes a little off his shoulder.
Maybe the door had one of those like bead doors and just,
There's a blower. There's a blower in there to keep the bugs out, and it also blows all of the dust off of you when the ceiling collapses. So, I don't know anything about Bad Bunny at all. And I don't speak Spanish, so I don't understand a word that he was singing. But this is what I got out of it. It was visually incredibly fun, and it seemed. This is the word I keep coming back to. It seemed joyous, right? It just seemed like
it's fun.
Everybody was having fun. It wasn't serious. It wasn't. And some Super Bowl halftime shows are like, it's all about the music, attitude, right? And no, it was just fun and joyous.
I think because this is, I think this is the key to Bad Bunny's success. That if you don't know what he's saying, people enjoy his music because it sounds good. Like it just sounds fun. Like you can dance to it. And I think
he is the really number one musical star in the world and in the U.S. I mean, he's
number one.
He's not a small name. He is I get the Bloomberg Entertainment newsletter where they do a kind of like calculation using methods of calculating who is the top star right now, and it's Bad Bunny, and it's not even close. No. And I can see it. I mean, I see the joy of it. The way it was orchestrated was beautiful. There were some stars in the background, which is very funny. Pedro Pascal was back there. Yeah. Ronald Acuna Jr., the baseball player, he was getting, there were cool cameos happening. And the one that I loved the best, so there's a really great bit of choreography where he's going around and he's like, he gets something at one vendor and then gives it to another vendor and then gets something back and gives it to another. And he ends up with a wedding ring, basically. And he opens it up and he's like, no. And he closes it and he hands it to a guy who's standing next to a woman. The guy goes down on a knee to propose, basically. And you're like, that's really funny. And then a little bit later, she's in a wedding dress and they're getting married. Mm-hmm. And then a little bit later, you see them and they're cutting the cake and giving it to people on the stage of one of the stages as part of this. Just as you go throughout, there's this through line about this couple. And the best part, Mike, it was a real wedding. Bad Bunny signed. He was the witness. They wrote him and said, "We would like you to come to our wedding," which is cute. And he said, "I have a better idea." And they got married at the Super Bowl, and Bad Bunny was the witness.
God.
Real wedding.
What?
Apparently so. That's what they say. Yeah.
I did not know that.
Yeah.
That is incredible. Yeah, The Guardian, wedding in Bad Bunny's Super Bowl halftime show was the real thing. I did think they looked really happy. I guess that's why.
When they kissed, I was like, that's pretty good acting, right? Like that looks like super real.
Wow.
Isn't that sweet? But I feel like that goes with the whole joy of the whole thing. So I just thought it was fun. And here's the thing. I know that there were some political people complaining about this and all that. I'll just say this, which is Puerto Rico's part of America. Like, it is. We could, and the people of Puerto Rico should be able to decide, do they want to be independent? Do they want to be a state? Do they want to remain as they are? They've been really treated, I would argue, very badly by the central U.S. government, especially over the last 10 or 15 years. They should determine their destiny. But for now and for the last very long time, Puerto Rico is American, and they're in America, and they can. So this is I love that this is a different aspect of America, but it is still fundamentally American. I also really loved the God Bless America, and then he listed all the countries in the Americas. I thought that was great and very funny, and also
that was
pointed.
High risk for him that he had to remember them all.
I know, right?
I seen
Costa
the list
Rica
and
is
was like,
very
bravo.
angry this morning because it was forgotten by Bad. But no, he got all of them all the way up to Canada.
That was the best bit.
And he covered some islands, and it's great.
And what I love is the end of that moment. He is so excited, and he throws the ball into the ground, and he is just elated.
He spiked the ball at the end.
Yeah.
How that was so good. Yeah. I think he's just got a charisma and an energy about him that, even though I didn't know anything about him, I just thought it was fun. So thumbs up to the Apple Music halftime show. I thought that was pretty.
I will say they've all.
How
been
many
good,
Apple employees do you think were there? I mean, they usually, I know Tim and Eddie go to the Super Bowl, but
I expect they get a big box or a couple of boxes.
And I wonder if there was some event at Apple this week.
Probably.
Just a private event at Apple that was just for music people or something. I don't know.
I'm sure that they have a thing where all the executives go, and it's like a reward for some high performing individuals that you get
for
to
people
go.
who don't. Yeah, probably for people who don't know Bay Area geography, by the way, because I think it's really funny that the tech industry is all kind of in the Bay Area, and I am one of the only people in our circle who lives here, which is very funny. First off, the Super Bowl is in Santa Clara at the 49ers Stadium. It's not in San Francisco, the city, which is really hilarious. They got a good shot of the Golden Gate Bridge or the Bay Bridge or stuff like that. It's 45 miles away from there. So it's at the far south end
everyone's just
of the
been
Bay.
talking about the fact that the Super Bowl is in San Francisco.
Yeah, and they do all the festivities up there.
Yeah.
All the festivities are in San Francisco. Everybody wants to be in San Francisco, and it's been a fun week because all these people who believe the propaganda that San Francisco is a disaster of a city that's in a doom loop has showed up and been like, oh, actually, it's really nice. Yeah, it is actually really nice. I mean, we've got San Francisco's got its tough neighborhoods and stuff, and they're a little more visible because of the way it's laid out in the city. But what city doesn't? And so much of San Francisco is just beautiful and remarkable, and it's one of the great cities in the world. And everybody who came for the Super Bowl was like, oh yeah, right, it's really great. It's like, yeah,
I actually have a little thing, my gears have been ground a little bit by this.
Okay.
In a different way.
All right.
Well, I've been seeing a lot of people saying that, a lot of people have been sharing clips from a Pat McAfee thing where he's talking about how much he's loved San Francisco.
Right. It's not at all like what they say on Fox News.
Right. And people are dunking on him for that, right? And I just think that that's not the right approach, right?
Yeah. No,
he is trying to be open and saying, I was wrong. I think people should be like, this is great. Rather than
exactly.
oh, cool,
I agree.
Gumbo. I just don't think that's helpful.
My only complaint is that he also did this last year when they did College Game Day at Cal, and they were at Berkeley, and he's like, whoa, it's really great. Berkeley is nice, and I got a bunch of food down on Telegraph Avenue, and now we're here with all the cheering fans, and I guess the Bay Area isn't what I thought. And he comes back a year later, and he's like, whoa, the Bay Area is not what I thought. It's
well,
like, yeah, dude.
This time he was talking about San Francisco, which is
it's totally different from Berkeley.
To the rest of the Bay Area. Right?
Anyway, so for Berkeley is on the other side of the Bay Bridge in the East Bay. So this is the geography point I wanted to make, which is Apple is very close to where the stadium is. That's in the South Bay. That's in Silicon Valley proper. It's in Santa Clara and Apple's in Cupertino, but they're not that far apart. They're both down there, and not in the city of San Francisco. So in some ways, it was on Apple's home turf that all of this happened. That's my Apple-related geography bit for the day.
So I also like to just do a quick run through of some of the ads that I liked. And I'm sure you have
let's
some
do it.
too.
Yeah.
There usually for me, I'm looking for media like movies and
Movie
TV
trailers.
show kind of stuff.
Sure.
And so I saw a few of these this morning. The Mandalorian and Grogu ad, I think, was incredibly effective. It feels very nostalgic. I think they kind of set it up to sound like a beer commercial or something. Like the narration.
Yes, I can explain this for you.
Okay.
It is a Super Bowl ad, and so they know it's a Super Bowl ad. And what they're doing, and it's Sam, what's his name? It's the guy who does, with the deep voice and the mustache, who does all the Budweiser
he's in Parks
ads.
and Rec. It was in Parks and Rec, right? Like he played the hippie parks guy. I know who you mean.
Yeah, Sam Elliott. Yeah. So it's Sam Elliott who has done like Budweiser ads and stuff.
Right. Okay.
And the Budweiser ads at the Super Bowl are often featuring the Clydesdales, which is like the symbol of Budweiser beer, is these big horses. So you see the hooves, and Sam Elliott is talking, and you're like, it's a Budweiser ad. And I got it immediately because I'm that sort of nerd that I saw the hooves, and I'm like, are those Tauntauns? And they are indeed Tauntauns. So it's it's a riff on a Budweiser ad, except it's the Mandalorian and Grogu riding on a little Tauntaun sled thing.
It's brilliant. And the music hits just right, and you're like, oh yeah, I do love the Mandalorian.
Yeah. And the whole point, I mean, it's not, the whole point is it's a Super Bowl ad to tell you, yes, there is a movie. And Lauren turned to me and she's like, wait, that's a movie? I'm like, yes, they're making a movie of the Mandalorian. That's why they have that ad, is to pay. There is a Mandalorian movie. It's coming out in a few months. Pay attention to it.
I don't know why, but like the look of this has made me much more excited about the movie, because I don't know if the movie's going to look like this, but this looks way more like the original trilogy than anything else. Like
there's a full trailer on YouTube as a part of this. They've done some others, but there's a full trailer now. And what I would say about it is, I'm not sure it needs to be a movie. It does feel very much like the TV show, but I'm sure it's a bigger scale. There are snow walkers, and there are a bunch of stormtroopers, and it feels very Star Warsy. And I'm sure that the whole idea is, if we're going to do a whole movie of this, we want it to be a fun adventure Star Wars movie, except with the Mandalorian and Grogu. So we'll see. I love the show. The last season wasn't very good, but I love the show, and I love those characters. So if they just put those two on an adventure and they let Grogu do some fun stuff, which it looks like there's a scene where, in the trailer, where Sigourney Weaver's in this movie, and she's sitting across the table from them, and there's like a cup with stuff in it, like a cup of food or something, and Grogu does his little force thing to try to drag the food across, and she puts her hand down on it and looks at him. It's like, no, no, baby. Very funny. So yeah, I'm looking forward to it. Good trailer, good teaser, good reference to Super Bowl ads, which is kind of what's going on there. I thought that was good.
I liked the Hoppers trailer. I've known about this movie for a bit. It's essentially somebody gets their consciousness put into is it a gerbil, hamster?
I don't know. Squirrel?
An animal.
Little rodent.
And that's the movie. And then there's just kind of like things. I'm sure there's reasons for it. Like, they don't really get into it in the trailer, but it just looks fun. And apparently this movie
beaver is the answer.
It's a beaver. It's a beaver. This movie, people have been digging it, apparently, like from test screenings and notice screenings and stuff. What I liked about this trailer specifically, because this is a Pixar movie, the animation style feels a little bit more evolved, which I like. I think that Pixar have not been doing, to my memory, like a lot of like things that look like our world, right? Like they did Elemental, which was very conceptual. I didn't see Elio. Maybe that was probably similar, but I just liked the way it looked. I thought it looked really good, and I'm into this movie, and so there we go. You put in Project Hail Mary in here. I did not watch this trailer because I've seen enough of the I saw the first trailer for this movie. I don't want to see any more trailers for this movie.
Okay,
I feel like there's
fair.
like information. I feel like I got too much from the first trailer. You know what I mean? Like, it's like, oh, you spoiled too much of this for me, and I think I would like it. But did you like it? Did it look good?
Yeah. I mean, so I enjoy the book. I think this looks like a really good movie. There's been some complaints that there are twists in the book that are spoiled by the trailers, but what I would say is they got to sell the movie, folks.
Yeah.
Like Pixar has had this issue where nobody goes to see their movies anymore, partially because they got trained out of it by the pandemic and putting things on Disney Plus. And so having Hoppers be an ad is sort of trying to, again, be like, yeah, there's a Pixar movie, you want to see it. Project Hail Mary, in the end, they need to convince people to watch it, and I think you can't hide the reveal of a plot point midway through the movie, less than midway through the movie, in order to protect people when you need to sell them the movie. I would also argue, maybe I'm spoiling something here, I don't think I am. I would argue there are other twists that happen after that are fine, so I think it's going to be an enjoyable movie. I'm really looking forward to it. It's Andy Weir who wrote the book, so it's kind of like The Martian in a different context a little bit.
This is the trailer I found this morning, something I didn't even know existed until this morning. Baz Luhrmann has made an Elvis concert movie based on found footage from Elvis's Vegas days. I watched the trailer for this, and I became quite interested in this because the footage looks so good, it looks like it couldn't be real. But it is, right? But it looks incredible. Obviously, they have done a lot of work in restoring it and coloring it. But I am very intrigued about this movie. I'm not going to go to the cinema for this movie, but I will definitely watch it when it comes to home.
So Elvis gets the Beatles Get Back treatment, kind of.
And I think that's great.
Out of the archives.
Yeah, and apparently this was footage that was rumored, and then it's been found. But it just looks like the trailer just looks really, really good, and so I will look forward to that one.
It's not a music movie, but I'll mention that there's a great movie called Apollo 11. That's a documentary. It's very similar, where they found there's a bunch of obviously footage of the moon landing, but there's a bunch of stuff that has not been widely seen, and there's a bunch of stuff that was basically buried in an archive and not seen ever, or not seen since the late 60s.
Right.
And they made a movie out of that. And it's a similar kind of vibe. This is a few years ago. It's available. People can watch it. I saw it in IMAX. But they shot a bunch of it in like 70 millimeter. It's just wild. And then you take modern techniques and clean it up and sync all the audio and all of that. And you can really take that. I love that genre of finding some really good old film and then cleaning it up and making a modern document of that thing from the past. That's a cool idea.
And then just kind of like a few traditional ads that I like. The Ben Affleck Duncan ad, which was basically a 90s comedy supergroup. I thought this was very strange and very fun.
I found it disturbing. There was also a Jurassic Park ad that did the same thing. So apparently we are now at the stage where what we do is we do cultural references to the past, and we take the actors as they are and we de-age them to look like they did in the past. So it's a whole bunch of 90s sitcom stars interacting in a Duncan with Ben Affleck as Good Will Hunting. And so, Jennifer Aniston and who else is in there? Jason Alexander and Ted Danson.
And Tom Brady's there for some reason.
Well, just because it's Duncan and it's Ben Affleck and all that. So I do wonder if this might have been perfectly fine if they were all in their present ages.
Yeah.
And it would have been a little less creepy, but whatever. I thought the Jurassic Park ad was better in all circumstances. There's a Comcast ad where Jurassic Park just needed its router rebooted. I
found the Jurassic Park one like more disturbing to me. Like the de-aging was more disturbing.
Oh, I thought it was I thought it was done better. I thought that was just better looking de-aging. But either way, I don't love this trend. I don't love it.
Apple got a quick feature in the Cadillac ad. Cadillac F1 team revealed the look, it's called the livery, the look of their car in a Super Bowl ad, but really it was to let Americans know that a true-blooded American team that has two drivers, one's Mexican, one Finnish, but we don't worry about that.
No, never mind.
True-blooded American team
USA
is coming to the grid, even though there is already one that people don't care about, but now there's going to be another one.
Another one.
But Apple get the rub because they got a little cross promo at the end of this, like, hey, watch it on Apple TV. So I think I would expect this was a cross-branded marketing exercise.
Yes,
between
yes.
the two companies.
I'm sure Apple kicked in. But so at the end it swipes and it says F1 on Apple TV.
Yep. And then there were just 3 others I wanted to shout out. Instacart's is very funny. Pepsi's is very clever.
With the polar bears.
They stole the polar bear. And it's clever on a few levels. Polar bear, they did the the blind taste, which apparently they've been having success with the Pepsi challenge. And also they went to great lengths to talk about the fact that it was all made by humans with CG rather than AI, because
which is what Coke is doing, which is gross.
So they're hitting it on all fronts. And yes, they are a sponsor, but Squarespace's ad with Emma Stone was brilliant.
That was a great ad.
Brilliant. And I also can't believe that a company that sponsors us also does Super Bowl ads, but here we are.
We're all over the place. I liked how bizarre the Ben Stiller ad was.
Yes, the Instacart one, right?
Yeah, bananas. Yeah, that was really good.
Yeah, that was really good.
In just a very weird way.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, sure.
This episode is brought to you by Delete Me. Delete Me makes it easy, quick, and safe to remove your personal data online at a time when surveillance and data breaches are common enough to make everybody vulnerable. Delete Me will do all of the hard work of wiping your personal information from data broker websites. Delete Me know that your privacy is worth protecting. Sign up and provide Delete Me with exactly what information you want deleted, and their experts take it from there. This is one of the things that I love about Delete Me, because obviously I am a person who has a professional life on the internet. I don't want that to be removed. I don't want my professional contact information taken away, but my personal stuff I want to be removed because it doesn't need to be there, and so I want to give it to someone. So Delete Me will take the information that I give them, and then they will go out, find out where it exists online, and get it taken down for me. Delete Me will send you regular personalized privacy reports showing you what information they found, where they found it, and what has been removed. Take control of your data and keep your private life private by signing up for Delete Me. Now, with a special discount for listeners of this show, you can get 20% off your Delete Me plan when you go to joindeleteme.com/upgrade20 and use the promo code upgrade20 at checkout. The only way to get 20% off is to go to joindeleteme.com/upgrade20 and enter the code upgrade20 at checkout. One last time, that's joindeleteme.com/upgrade20 with the code upgrade20. Our thanks to Delete Me for their support of this show and Relay. Let's do some follow-up at this time of the show. I guess we might as well. Simon wrote in and said, there was a Rest is History episode where they discussed the economic impact of the Royal Navy in England hundreds of years ago and explaining why so many money-related terms are sea-related. Basically, the whole economy was around building and financing the Navy for decades, hence why financial people use nautical terms so much. So that's why. We were talking about it last week.
Okay, yeah, I don't know if I've heard that. I mean, they talked about that a little bit in the Chatham High Street episode.
Yeah.
Because that's where the shipyards are, and
it would
all
make
that. But
sense,
I mean,
right?
the Navy in England was, England basically didn't have an army, but they had this enormous Navy, and then the technology involved, and the rope making factories, and the ship works, and all of that. So it's not surprising that it would trickle down. Maybe that's even a nautical term to economic concepts like financial headwinds and all of that. So it's great. We were just figuring it out ourselves. We just pieced it together that it's all a metaphor for ships and pirates and stuff.
Yep.
Good for us.
We spoke a while back about Google reverse engineering AirDrop for their Pixel phones. They have now confirmed that it is going to be rolling out to more Android devices. So they're working with some of their partners to have them integrate Quick Share, which is Google's method, and having it work with this reverse engineered AirDrop. So, we wondered if anything was going to happen there. Would Apple try and stop it? Or would they just let it go? And it seems like probably just let it go. But they will now, I think, work into the scenario that we mentioned before, where now it's going to be something they're probably going to... If it's going to roll... Let's say Samsung has it, right? If Samsung has it at that point, a lot of people have access to this technology. at that point, it becomes harder and harder to justify if you break it. And so it's going to be really interesting to see what happens, especially if they're now rolling it out. It wasn't as much of an issue when it was just on Pixel phones, but if it starts rolling out to some of the much bigger manufacturers, it's probably something they're going to have to at least be aware of and consider when they make any changes.
Yeah.
And Xcode 26.3 last week allowed developers to integrate with Claude and ChatGPT's coding agents, so the Anthropic Claude agent and ChatGPT Codex, I think it is.
Yeah, Claude Code and ChatGPT Codex. Yep. This is Apple has been trying to push better AI integration in Xcode for a while. They famously showed us stuff that they didn't ship for a very long time in 2024, but what else is new? But they've been kind of on it since sort of early to mid last year. And this is the latest update that is in I guess it's a developer build of 26.3, but it's going to roll out. And it is, they are furnishing all the stuff that is required to integrate either of these or anything else, but these especially, since they are looking at your projects and all of that, and building into Xcode. And I've seen people who responded, well, it's fine that Apple finally got there, but this has been going on for ages, which is not ages because it's AI ages. But the point is, Apple doesn't want to. First off, these are Apple's development tools, and so much development happens in Xcode. So you're hurting your platform and hurting your developers by not offering integration with these tools at the Xcode level. So that's really good that they did that. And I've seen developers who look at it and are kind of blown away by it.
Apple, if you don't do this, you're encouraging people to use third-party apps and just paste the code into Xcode, which kind of like devalues your tool. So I guess if you're proud of your development environment, you should integrate these tools directly into it, so your developers don't need to open a ChatGPT Codex window on the side and just copy and paste into Xcode.
Yeah. So it's ongoing, and I'm sure there are issues, but also the Apple being there and having this, and I've seen developers react really positively to it. I mean, there's a lot of consternation in the developer world right now.
Oh, yeah.
Because there's a question of sort of like, who are we and what is our role in a world where AI can write code like this? And I know there are also people out there who are like, oh, I don't write any code, but I can make an app now. And I'm sure you can. I am skeptical of how good that app is going to be, because even if you get the code right, there are other considerations when designing an app. But it's really interesting to see. I wonder where that will go, but Apple needs to be present in all of this, because this is a thing that's happening. And so for them to do it now, I'll also say just for them to do it now and not like hold it for June, right? Like don't just AI features for developers. Your time's wasting. You got to get out there. So they did it.
Yeah, I think it's great that if they decided they were going to do this, that they did it, right? They just did it. Because, as you say, if you would have waited another 3 months, where are we going to be in 3 months' time, 4 months' time, 5 months' time as we get towards WWDC season? But something I find interesting about this, like thinking about it, like, well, inside of Xcode, like Apple reference how the models can then like refer to and call Apple's latest technologies and APIs, right?
Yeah.
Which I would expect they maybe wouldn't do or wouldn't be as inclined to do if you were doing these things outside of Xcode. And it makes me wonder that, like, if this becomes a thing that more and more developers start using, is Apple going to see more adoption of the things it wants people to be using?
Oh, because they've made the effort. Well, I mean, the challenge is you've got to make the effort to seed it. In fact, one of the things that I've noticed developers say on Mastodon is it's way easier to build things. Or let me phrase it this way: Swift UI is actually not as well supported and does not have as good results as the older frameworks do. And that's because there's an enormous corpus of information about the older frameworks, and Swift UI is newer and therefore doesn't have it. And other than time, the only other way to do that is for Apple to load in as much as they can. Mm-hmm. And documentation about new ways of doing things is another way that then it's like, oh, I can use this API. And so the code assistant will do that, but Apple has to furnish that documentation and other information to get that to happen.
It feels like there's an opportunity there that could benefit everyone, ultimately.
Yeah, and these things are great. I actually used Claude Code for the first time this week.
Okay.
Um,
Like in the terminal kind of thing?
no, I used it in the app
Okay.
and pointed it at. I had a bug in my WordPress theme,
Right.
and so I pointed it at my WordPress theme, and I said, "Here's my bug. What do you think?"
Yep.
And it cogitated for a while, and then it said, "Oh, this CSS statement is in the wrong place and references the wrong thing, and I will change that. And here's what I changed." And then I looked in my GitHub app, and it showed me the change, and it was that change. And I previewed it on my development site, and it absolutely fixed the problem. And then I pushed it live. And it was just one of those things where I see the advantage of these kind of systems is they can look at your code base, which my code base is a WordPress theme. It's not super complicated, but it's many files. And so for it to analyze it and know the pieces in various things, and it's just a step up, because previously I would take pieces of code or a file and say, can you look at this? And then it would say, I suggest you do this. And then I would make the change, right? And that's what's transformative about these bigger things, is they can look at your whole project and make connections and make changes around like all of the files that are interconnected in a project, which is much. It's a lot easier to use, and it's much more functional than having to kind of hold its hand as you take it through, little subroutines here and there, which is what I was doing before.
So a couple of weeks ago on Upgrade Plus, we spoke a little bit about Tim Cook's seeming unwillingness to talk publicly about what's been going on in the States, specifically in Minneapolis with ICE.
Right. And his attendance at the Melania screening,
yes.
the same day as the killing on the streets.
Yep. Yeah, so we spoke about that. We spoke a little bit about our kind of frustration with that, and anyway, but I think it's obvious how we feel about these things. But what I wanted to talk about was the fact that since then, this seems to be becoming a problem inside of Apple. So a couple of days later, he issued a memo, I think, an internal memo, which didn't really seem to go down very well.
When you first off, when you have to release a memo, it means that whatever you did before didn't work. And
yes.
When you then have to follow it up with a town hall meeting, the memo, they were not picking up what you were putting down on that in your memo. So now we got to do a town hall.
So you didn't do anything, then it made you do it. He said nothing, which meant, oh, here's a memo, and then the memo went down like a lead balloon. Yeah. So let's have a town hall of everybody.
Right. Which somebody recorded and transcribed and sent to Mark Gurman.
But again, as I've mentioned before, memos, town halls, you say these things in front of everybody so somebody will leak it, right? Like you're trying to not have to say anything in public so it will be said for you. This is a long quote, but I want to read the transcript that Mark Gurman published. So this is Tim. I've heard from some of you that you don't feel comfortable leaving your homes. No one should feel this way. No one. On a personal level, I am deeply distraught by what's happening. What I see and hear from people about the fear they are living with, it breaks my heart. Every person deserves to be treated with dignity and respect no matter where they come from. Immigration is important to this country. Immigration is important to this company. For as long as I can remember, we have been a smarter, wiser, more innovative company because we've attracted the best and brightest from all corners of the world. We have team members across the U.S. on some form of visa. I am going to continue to lobby lawmakers on this issue. You have my word on that. I've always believed in dignity and respect for everyone, and I am grateful to work at a company where we all share these values. We stand for education and expanding access to opportunity. We stand for privacy, protecting the environment. These values have always guided us and always will. I read it and I'm like, okay, right? It's like, okay, like you're saying some stuff. I think you're saying some
whole
things
lot of words
that are right. Like you're saying some stuff.
Yep.
But I think he's going to have to do something else because he's not saying it in public. That's all everybody wants. Say it in public. Take this and publish it on Apple's website, Thoughts on Immigration, like just do that. I think because what it is that's annoying people is he's not done that, right? Like he's refusing to say in public what he is willing to say to the team, so it will be leaked, and he can be like, "Oh, I didn't want to say that."
Yeah,
out
in
loud.
a muted way that does not. It's all passive, right? It's like
Yes.
these things are happening. It's like, who's doing them, Tim? What is the cause of all these things that you're concerned about? And the answer is the cause is the people who were in the room watching that documentary with you after a guy got killed on the streets of Minneapolis. That's who the cause of this is. But he's like, no, bad things. We don't like the bad things. We like better things. But it's just empty and meaningless. So I mean, I when this story came out, I texted you and Stephen Hackett, and then I just with a link to the Bloomberg story, and I just said damage control, right? Like
Absolutely.
it's just all it is damage control with his employees because they're deeply dissatisfied with his behavior, and I don't think that this fixes anything. And I think the article made the point, and even Tim Cook made the point that Apple's got a lot of people who are immigrants working at Apple. A lot.
Yeah.
Apple has and this is okay. I think this is one of the things that legitimately has made America great is people from, I know some of them, people from all over the world dream of coming to Cupertino and working at Apple, coming to the US and working for Apple. It's like the big leagues. It's like I can make a difference on all these devices that people use all over the world.
Yep.
And I'm going to go to America and I'm going to be on this. And so they get these brilliant people from all over the world who want to come to the United States and work at Apple and work in the big leagues. So that's true. And I think that poses a problem for Tim because there's a real tension between that whole philosophy and the opinions espoused by the people in power right now. And so it's a tough one for Tim Cook, but this is just a lot of words. He's like trying to beat it into submission with words.
Like, maybe I'm a fool, but I believe that he lobbies for this stuff. I do believe it. But the problem is he won't say it. That's the issue. He won't say it.
Yeah, and how is, and maybe you could argue, if you want to go down that route, is he doing politics where he's trying to do, he knows that if he makes it a fight in public with the administration, it's just going to be bad, and so what he's going to do is say things. But the problem is then what you're doing is you're whispering gentle words in the king's ear. So you're saying de-escalation. And like, okay, de-escalation, sure, but you also went to the documentary screening when there was blood on the streets of Minneapolis. Like, I don't know what to tell you. Like, I don't know what to tell you. There is always going to be an argument to be made, and this is the same argument Tim Cook has made about China over the years, is, China is trying to create a surveillance panopticon, and it's trying to control its citizenry and control all the information that comes to them. And Tim Cook's like, well, I feel like it's better. He literally said this. I feel like it's better if we're in there working with them than if we walk away. It's also much more profitable, by the way. He didn't say that part. And I think
that's the old world leader view, right? Like that was the thing, right? People have said that for years.
I think this is right, because the whole idea was that the more we engage with China, it was more likely to be open and democratic, which did not work, by the way. Yeah. And I think if you use that same approach in the U.S., like, I understand the idea here that the last thing you want to be is considered an enemy by this administration because they will hurt you, and they will try to turn people against you, and they will rail against you. Like your Bad Bunny. But at some point, don't you have to show some backbone? At some point. And thus far, the answer is Tim Cook doesn't think so. So, okay. So be it.
Or, again, it's like, I think he is trying to show the most minimal amount of backbone, which is pointless to do.
He's paddling. He is so trying to have it both ways.
Yes,
he's just trying real hard to have it both ways.
And I think he's learning faster and faster that he can't. And I don't know how they're going to do it. So like I got a note that this town hall was happening because somebody thought something big was going to happen because it was apparently announced very last minute. Yeah,
it's like, it's Tim retiring or whatever.
Yeah.
And it's like, no,
that's what this person thought, because apparently, I don't know, but like all employee town halls are rare enough for them to be announced, I think, to be happening on the day they're happening. Some people thought it was like, this person thought it was something big was going on. So, they decided to, we gotta calm the troops. And it's like, well, no, this isn't going to do it. Like, this is not what people want from him, and I don't at this point I don't know if he's going to give it. Nevertheless, there was another quote on this from a completely different. We're gonna take a sharp left turn now. There was another quote from this town hall that I thought was really interesting because it is Apple's 50th year in business this year, and Tim spoke about that a little bit. So I want to read this quote as well. I've been unusually reflective lately about Apple because we have been working on what do we do to mark this moment 50 years. It's an extraordinary accomplishment. We've been going back through old archives, old photographs. We've been going back through the products, the services, the people, and I am struck by how much Apple has changed things, how much Apple has changed the world, how much Apple has given to the world. Are we going to celebrate it? You better believe it. We're not ready to say exactly how yet, so stay tuned. Yes, we're not a culture that looks back, so the group of people working on this have had to kind of build a different muscle for this, as our muscle is always about what's next. We've really had to work hard on this to get it in a reflexive state, but when you really stop and pause and think about the last 50 years, it makes your heart sing. It really does. I promise some celebration. This is interesting. I don't know what this means, but like this, he references in this, right, about like Apple does not do this kind of thing.
Yeah, I'm taken back to when I was able to interview Steve Jobs for the 20th anniversary of the Mac, and the conditions were never, do not ask any questions about the past. And as we know, Apple doesn't comment on future products. So what the hell am I supposed to do with that? Yeah, and he didn't want to be there. It was the worst interview I've ever done. But yeah, don't talk about the past. He'll do it, and I'm sure that was from Steve, right? It's like I'll talk about it, but I don't want to talk about the past. So
I'll talk
this
about
made
the
me
20th
laugh
anniversary without referencing
because he said we're not a culture that looks back, but we're working on it. We're building up some muscles to look backward. We're gonna get our neck limber so we can look behind us, and we're gonna. I mean, 50 years of Apple, it's a big accomplishment. There's a bunch of stuff going on. David Pogue has got an enormous book coming out. That's the first 50 years. It's called, which is kind of hilarious.
Yeah. He seems to like that. I mean, I got some PR for that book, which I still need to look through. But the quotes from the PR person is saying that he had access to current Apple executives. He
did.
Ask them
he did
information. So I don't know if you've read it or if
I've read it. Okay, I've read it.
Read the whole thing?
I'm withholding comment on it for now. I will write a review of it that you will see somewhere. But I'm withholding comment on it for now.
But you can confirm that piece of information.
It is absolutely the case that there are people who currently work at Apple who are quoted in the book, were interviewed for the project by David Pogue, for sure.
I'm happy that they allowed that. I mean, he's the person, I think, he is one of the people you would have write that book, right?
Yeah, I mean, when it was announced, I thought that was a really great idea because I think David, because I edited David at Macworld for a while, and then he went to the New York Times, and he's just a smooth writer, and he's really good at kind of like taking a kind of higher level. And if you're going to write a more popular history of Apple instead of it being, super nerdy, I think he's the person to write it because that was my initial response is like, because he wants to kind of tell a good story and not necessarily get bogged down in the details that we might delight in about, snow leopard or whatever. But Apple's participation is very interesting, right? That means it's not quite an authorized history, but it's not unauthorized either. Yes. It is, they made some people who were still at Apple available to talk to him, which is like rare.
He didn't just talk to Scott Forstall and what I mean?
Not,
like
it's not just the people who left.
Past people.
He did talk to Scott Forstall,
I'm sure
but he didn't just
I'm sure he did.
But he also talked to Phil Schiller, right? I mean, that's and Sumbul Desai is in there, right? Like there are lots of current Apple executives who are in the book.
No, I look forward to that.
Spoilers for.
But yeah, I'm looking forward to what they do. It's going to be really interesting to see how Apple celebrates it. Is this a public celebration? It's going to be interesting to see how they handle all of that.
Yeah, especially since they're not good at it. So what they did at the last major milestone, I forget which one it was, is they did a picture and a little video or something like that. And that's my guess about what this is that there will be a little inspirational something for 50 years, but who knows? It's uncharted territory in many ways for them, so we'll see what they do. So
it's April 1st.
April 1st is the... Pogue's got the details in his book. You'll be able to read about it, but it's actually kind of funny because they incorporate April 1st with the documentation, but then there's a later anniversary, which is sort of like when they filed other papers and stuff, but it doesn't matter. Everybody counts Apple's founding as April 1st, 1976, when April Fool's Day, when Steve and Mike Markula, I think, kind of put it together and said, we'll make this a business.
This episode is brought to you by our friends over at Factor. Cold days, big goals, and no time to cook. It can be hard juggling everything you have to do at this time of year. Thankfully, Factor makes healthy eating easy with fully prepared meals designed by dietitians and crafted by chefs, so you can eat well without the planning or cooking. With Factor, you can expect high-quality ingredients, lean proteins, colorful vegetables, whole food ingredients, and healthy fats. It's the stuff that you'd make if you had the time. No refined sugars, no artificial sweeteners, no refined seed oils. There's also a lot of variety, so you're never going to get bored. Factor offer 100 rotating weekly meals with options that include high-protein, calorie-smart, Mediterranean diet, GLP-1 support, and ready-to-eat salads, plus the new Muscle Pro collection supports strength and recovery. Factor meals are always fresh, never frozen, and ready in 2 minutes. No prep, no stress. Jason, can you talk about some Factor experiences you've had recently, anything you've really liked, or anything you want to share?
Yeah, well, I mean, so we got another load of them, and Lauren takes them to work with her. She has a real opinion about microwave chicken, like reheated chicken. She's like unacceptable. She just hates it. She hates something about it, the smell, the taste. I don't even know what it is. And this is the thing that I want to impress on people about the Factor stuff is, I don't know exactly what they're doing, but their chicken, when you put it in the microwave for 2 minutes, does not come out feeling like weird reheated microwave chicken. It feels like freshly cooked chicken. I don't want to say on an ad what I think it is, but I have a theory about what they're doing. But it is the net result is all that really matters. Is it tastes much more fresh than your microwave meal might expect to be, and it's got a nice array of high quality ingredients. I think that's part of the secret, is that their ingredients are really good. Yeah. And then I buy it for my mom. My mom gets a selection of Factors. I think I'm doing every other work for her at this point, but because we're worried about her getting proper nutrition, and she doesn't want to cook for herself really. So that makes it easy for her to get really good meals with protein and veggies and the whole spread. So it's a winner. It's a winner. I wouldn't be paying for my mom just because they're a podcast sponsor. I'll just put it that way. I pay for my mom because we tried it and we're like, this would solve my mom's problem.
Head to factormeals.com/upgrade50off and use the code upgrade50off to get 50% off and free breakfast for a year. Eat like a pro this month with Factor. New subscribers only, varies by plan. 1 free breakfast item per box for 1 year while the subscription is active. Factormeals.com/upgrade50off with the code upgrade50off. Our thanks to Factor for the support of this show and Relay. Rumor Roundup time.
Yeehaw!
We'll start our Rumor Roundup this week with something that I want to include because I find it pretty funny.
Oh, man. Upgrades in the news again.
Mac Rumors is reporting that a previous rumor that we shared from an anonymous source in November 2024 may be coming true. So
did you have that moment where you looked at the article and you're like, what? It's us, huh?
Yeah. It was pretty funny because I'd started reading it. That wasn't why I read it.
Yeah. Give me this. New studio display information. Let's find.
My
it's
own
me.
Name in the thing, and it's like, what did I do?
Yeah.
So we shared information that we got from an anonymous informant that Apple was working on a new 90 hertz display panel that would be used in future products like iPads and a studio display. Mac Rumors is saying they have received information from an informant of their own, or a source, as they will say, that this is what can be expected from the rumored studio display refresh that is hopefully coming soon, that it will have 90 hertz as the standard. So my hope from this has always been that Apple were just going to bump up their lowest to 90 and everything else gets 120.
Yeah, that studio display at 90. I mean, look, I use a studio display. I have 2 of them, and I have a Mac with a ProMotion display now. And ProMotion is nice. On the Mac, it's less nice than it is on an iPad or an iPhone.
Sure.
So I'm more interested in other aspects of the studio display, the new studio display, than its refresh rate. Yep. But if it's got a higher refresh rate so everything looks a little smoother, great. great. If it's not 120, not sure I care that much.
I mean,
honestly.
I want 120 because why not? But yes,
Why not?
But I want more than 60 at this point. If
Yeah.
the standard iPhone has it, like I think we need to start pushing this out to these really expensive products. And also, I just really want a studio display refresh, which we're going to talk about in a moment, because Mark Gurman is reporting at Bloomberg what the next few months are going to look like for Apple. So he has one of his big reports where he throws in a bunch of details. So the iPhone 17e is imminent. It will see an A19 chip. It will finally get MagSafe, which is the fact that they have put it in a year later. It even more begs the question of why it wasn't in the 16e.
Why?
What was the thinking? Like, I cannot fathom that. Mark says this will, quote, have the newest in-house cellular and wireless chips. The fact that he did not say what this was suggests to me that maybe he's not sure if it's the last released or it's new. You know what I mean? Like, it's like, is it the one they just had, or is it a newer version that maybe is going to roll out into other products throughout the year of the modem and wireless chips?
The way I read that is that it's going to have the C1X or whatever it is that was in the fall models. Because remember the 16e had the C1. It was the first one, and then there was a mild revision, not enough for them to call it the C2, last fall. So that's the way I read it. Is just literally it'll be the C1X and not the C1.
Maybe it's the C2. I don't know.
I don't know. I mean, that's not how I read his report. Maybe, but that and then there'll be a C2X. Who knows? My guess is it's the C1X, but we don't know for sure. It is a little perplexing. It's not a major change. It is a chip update. What I think the biggest thing about it, and it was embedded in the name of the 16e, is it's 1 year later and they're going to update it, right? Like, bottom line, I think they've just decided this is part of that ongoing strategy that we're going to see a year from now, where they're doing more models with more refreshes and keeping them around less time, and then updating them again. So I think that's what's going on here. But the MagSafe, I agree. MagSafe, puzzling. Why wasn't it there before? Why is it there now? It's great. Every iPhone should have it.
Yes.
It had wireless charging, but it didn't have the magnets. It's like, why?
Unbelievable. Why would you do that?
What?
You even put the magnets in AirPods cases. You know what I mean? Like, what are we doing?
Is happening. So
no change in price, $599, and apparently the positioning for this is going to be like, hey, you get more for your money. It's like, okay, fair enough.
Yep.
There's a upcoming iPad and iPad Air refresh, just faster processors. It'll be the M4 for the iPad Air and the A18 for the iPad, which now means all iPads will run Apple Intelligence.
Yes, right. That's a nice update for the base model, the cheap iPad.
Yeah.
But yeah, iPads all kind of got turned over, so they're just getting chip updates this time.
Mark confirms again, or like reconfirms the iPad Mini getting an OLED display this year. It doesn't confirm anything on timing. And just reading this again in context, I can't think what the pitch is for this product. Like, why does the iPad Mini get an OLED display? Like, what is that then? You know what I mean?
You know, they want the iPad Mini to be nice. It's like a high-end iPad in a small body. Also, smaller screen, easier to do OLED, cheaper to do OLED.
But like, you see what I'm saying, right? It's like, well, the only iPads that have OLED displays are the Pros.
Yeah.
Right.
And now the Mini. I think OLED is going to come to the. I think OLED's going to come to the Air at some point here.
Oh, absolutely, it will.
But the Mini doesn't get refreshed as often, so they're going to do it this time. I think it's literally that.
And
I
also,
think it's like
it's really expensive, right? Like the Mini.
Yeah, they got a bunch of different planes in the air, and they're dropping at different points, and like now's the time to get iPad Mini OLED, because then they're going to have it there for a couple of years. So that kind of makes sense to me. Also, iPad Mini is a reading device for a lot of people.
Yeah.
And I think having an OLED for a reading device is better.
Yeah. I can already see the stories that people will write and talk about on podcasts. I bought an iPad Mini to be my new e-reader, and I love it.
You think they're going to do a
display?
Oh, if they do a nano texture display on the iPad Mini.
Hey now.
That would be an interesting reading device, wouldn't it?
Oh, hey now.
OLED nano texture iPad Mini.
$9,000.
I just said the magic words to Mike. Yeah, but still, it would be very interesting. I
Ooh,
tried.
yeah.
I wrote a story about. There was a TCL Android tablet that I tried that was in their Next Paper line, which is basically it's an LCD screen, but they've got a non-glare coating on it that makes it paper-like. And I didn't love it because in the end it's just an Android tablet. But there is some. I think e-readers are a very, I love them, niche product. I think an iPad that is more functional than an e-reader, but has a really nice, like an OLED screen and a nanotexture display, maybe. I think for a lot of people that is the media consumption.
Man, if they made
device.
a nanotexture OLED iPad Mini, that thing would be so sweet. Have you spent any time with the nanotexture iPad Pro?
Any amount of time, a very small amount of time. Yeah.
I only saw one in the hands-on at the event that they did in London, and I was really surprised at how good it looked. So yeah,
it looks great.
cool.
I bought an M5 iPad Pro and I did not get the nanotexture, and that's mostly because I never find that glare is an issue for me because I'm rarely using it in any situation where there's glare.
Yeah.
If I was, I would get it because it does look good, but I just there's the cost, and then it does degrade the experience even just a little tiny bit, and I felt there was no need. But yeah, it's very impressive. I always write this in my articles. I used to work in an office where my desk had giant windows right behind me, and I had a MacBook Air with a glossy screen, and I had a Thunderbolt display with a glass non-textured screen. Like this stuff is so amazing if you're in an environment you can't control like that. I don't personally have a need for it in my life right now, but it is amazing. I've got a MacBook Pro. They sent me the M5 MacBook Pro, the low-end model with a nanotexture display, and like it looks so good. Again, not sure I need it, even though I do work outside sometimes. But it would give me pause if I was buying my my MacBook Pro again. I might actually consider nanotexture on it because the only time I really use it is in environments that I can't control. So it's great tech. Great tech.
If on the laptops they're using the same process they use on the iPad, because it's different to what they did on the Studio Display. Because the Studio Display was a physical change to the glass, like they put like etches in it, I think, line dots. But the iPad was a chemical treatment that they did.
I think it's the same as the iPad, but I don't.
It would make sense.
That
100%. Seems like the way to do it, right? Rather than trying to do it physically, because you have so many downsides from that. Like that's when the polishing cloth became a thing, because you couldn't just use any cloth on the Pro display. You had to use, and they gave you the cloth because you could damage the display. But obviously, you couldn't do that with iPad. Like that would be a disaster if you couldn't touch the iPad. So yeah, okay, fair enough. Mac line, MacBook Pro, MacBook Air will be getting M5 updates likely at the beginning of March. There will be an M5 update to the Mac Studio. Mark mentions that a Studio Display update is coming. He says it, quote, looks quite similar to the current one. Sure, but I mean, does he know about 90 Hz, Jason? You know what I mean? Like, who could say?
That's the question.
And the low-cost MacBook is still on the roadmap for the first half of the year. And he says the screen will be under 13 inches. And that's not what I was expecting, right? We were talking about it being 13.3.
Nope. I think this is right? Because it's the M1. What's the size of the M1 MacBook Air screen?
I think
it's like 12.
Oh,
point
is it 12.9?
Something.
I think the new one is 13.3.
Yeah, but that's exactly it. It's going to be the screen from the M1 Air. It's that size. I mean, everything I get out of this is that this is the M1 Air, right? Yeah. With a new chip in it. Now, maybe it won't look the same. Maybe it'll be a little different. Maybe there'll be tweaks about it. But like all the vibes it's giving off are that this is, what do we do after selling the M1 Air at Costco and Walmart? And the answer is, actually not at Costco. I was in Costco the other day, and they had a good MacBook Air. I mean, the M1 is good, but like a modern MacBook Air. I don't know whether it was the M5 or not. But so I think it's going to be the M1.
The M1 2020. 13.3 inches.
Oh.
So I don't know what... This is what it stood out to me. It's like, well, what is that then?
Huh. Well, that's interesting.
Is it an iPad display? Like, essentially, like a 12.9 or something?
Yeah, maybe it is. If it's under 13, that's interesting. Yeah, I okay. Well, I take it all back then. So it's going to be lesser in another way, maybe.
And so this, to me, if he's right, so like I'm double checking on Apple's website. Yes, the M1 2020 13.3 inches.
13.3. Yeah.
So if it's under 13, well, what is that then? And so is this potentially going to be something new?
12-inch PowerBook confirmed.
That's what I'm
11-inch
saying.
MacBook Air confirmed.
That's what I'm saying.
I don't think so. My guess is that, I mean, as a user of MacBook Airs, I will just say, even on the 13-inch MacBook Air, it feels a little like Apple barely supports a screen that small. So I don't think they can go down much further, which is why my guess is that it'll be a 12.9.
They're going to use the 11-inch screen from the iPad. They can use the iPad Mini OLED. It's going to be a 7-inch Mac. There you go. Look forward to it. It's going to be great.
12.9. That kind of makes sense. 12.9.
But that, if it is 12.9, right? If they're using a 12.9-inch screen, that would suggest to me that we may see a purpose-built body for the computer. So it might look different. I'm excited now. This is an exciting detail to me because this is like we had some.
So
we know
that's
what
one
it's
less
be.
M1 Air vibe than we had before.
Yeah,
I think that's great. My skepticism is mostly just that it costs money to do redesigns, and the fewer things you redesign, the better. But it's also true that the M1 Air is so old at this point that it's probably got a lot of parts in it that like aren't being made anymore.
Well, you can look at its analog. I don't know if that's the right word. The 17E got a design.
I was going to say
is a fresh design. The 17E.
I was going to say 16E.
16E.
Is a good analog, right? The 16E is a new design, but it feels real familiar at the same time.
Because they we're going to do this and we're going to use it for a really, 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 really long time.
Right. So they use that is a classic Apple move. Is you build a new thing, you build it out of modern components, but the cheap ones, and it replaces a product that is out of old components. And the reason it's old components is it's been in the product line a long time. And you replace it with a new thing that's got all the modern stuff, and you're like, oh, I can't believe they put all this modern stuff in this computer. And it's like, yeah, we're going to keep selling this until 2030. So we gotta use stuff from 2025 or 2024. We can't go back to 2020 anymore. I think that's the reality of it, right? Is if you start to think this is a computer that we don't want to redesign again for another 3 or 4 or 5 years, then you get it up to speed, and then when it first comes out, you're like, oh, it's so modern, but it has to be modern because it's going to last forever.
Let me just throw this out there. I don't believe what I'm going to say, but I just want to get it on the record.
Okay.
Touchscreen?
No.
I'm just saying it.
100% no.
They're just words I've said.
Okay.
I'm not saying I believe it.
Oh, then I'll reply this way. I'll say touchscreen. Yes, that's going to be coming in the M6 MacBook Pro this fall.
Touchscreen? I just said it. I'm just saying the word touchscreen, and people can do whatever they want with it. Speaking of which, OLED touchscreen, MacBook Pro, come by the end of the year. Foldable iPhone 18, 18 Pro Max. These are things we knew. And the iOS 26.4 beta is slated to be released during the week of February 23rd, so that's 2 weeks from now. And this should include
AI features,
some Siri updates.
Yeah, that's going to be, and the reason that the developer beta matters is because when they release that developer beta, that's when they talk about it, because that's when the public can get it. Even though it's marked as a developer beta, that's when it's out there and everybody's going to talk about it. This is the classic, the reality of the internet, that it used to be Apple would be like, shh, don't say anything until we release it as final, and that never happened, right? As soon as it's in a build that is available, everybody's going to talk about it. And so over the last few years, Apple's just embraced it. And their drop of the developer beta is when they announce the new features that are in that OS. And this is going to be potentially a really huge one. So I'm looking forward to how they message that and what's in there. Because I would maybe say this is the biggest OS drop outside of WWDC that we've seen in quite a while.
I would say it is the most consequential. It might be one of the most consequential OS releases in modern history because of the expectation and kind of discourse built around what was iOS 18? Was it 18? Was it 17? Which was the one that was supposed to have this stuff in it at that point? Was it? It was WWDC 2024, so it was iOS 18.
18.
18. So, like, we're this far removed. What is this going to have in it? 17.
17. I don't even know.
It doesn't matter. But
it doesn't
this
matter.
was supposed to come out a long time ago.
Yes.
What drops? Does it work? If it does, how good is it? All of this stuff. I'm excited for this. My expectation is there will be a bunch of pre-briefed stories that drop at the moment that this beta comes out. Because I would just be surprised if they let the news story just occur to people as they start installing it. Not sure that that's really the way that we're looking for this. So,
and it is 18, not 17.
18. I think we should just start calling them 24 and 25.
Yeah. Renumber
retroactively.
Them. Just that would be not confusing at all. So, I don't know. I have, you never talk about the future, but I will say in the past, when they've done these features in developer releases, there have absolutely been briefings. So I would expect that they will have, whether I get one or not, I don't know, but I have in the past, and I would expect that people will, because Apple wants to control the narrative. Right?
Absolutely.
Like, one of the reasons they hated when they would release developer betas and people would leak them and write about them is that they weren't saying anything about it. And so the narrative was just completely taken out of their hands. And what they want to do is talk to you, right? They want to talk to you and say, here's the story we're telling. And then that gets relayed and they get to be part of the conversation.
Yep. And finally, Mark Gurman is reporting that Apple is scaling back their initial plans for an AI-powered health app. This is something that has fallen by the wayside due to Apple Intelligence changes. We spoke about this in the past of like they were building some models, and now the software org is like, no more custom built models. We're using Gemini for everything, or like Apple's foundation models for everything, powered by whoever it's powered by. But then also the leadership reshuffle that saw the health kind of services team fall under Eddy Cue. Apparently Q wants the health, like he said this was not good enough.
Yeah.
So,
I love this story because, I mean, we have a lot of fun with Eddy, right? Because he's a character.
Yeah, he is.
But he's also a very successful executive.
And deal maker.
And deal maker. And what I like about this is Eddy Cue sweeps in here and he's like, what's this Health Plus thing? And he's looking at it and he's like, no, this is no good. Let's just put a bunch of stuff back in the app, which I also, as a user, I really like the idea of like, hey, we shouldn't, hey, services executive here, this is a half-baked service and probably these features just need to be in our app. Because you and I would agree, Mike, Apple, we've talked about it in the upgradees, right? Like Apple's health features need to be better.
Way better.
And the idea that they're bad and the solution is that they stay bad, but then they introduce a service that makes them not bad. I mean, I'm not going to go back on my rant about the iWork apps, but it's the same sickness and malaise, which is your fundamental product has to be good. It has to be good. And then you offer a service that adds on to that there's a reason why people have to pay a subscription fee for it, because it has actual costs. There's a reason why it's extra. What you can't do is become a company that ships things that are lousy and then charges for them to not be lousy. That degrades this is a hill I will die on. That degrades the entire product, right? Like going on a tangent here just for a second. I was on vacation last week and we decided to stay not at like a condo rental. We decided to stay at basically a resort. And we're cheapskates, right? So it's more expensive, a little bit. And while I was there, I was thinking about Apple, as you do. I couldn't get entirely away from it. And this is what I was thinking, which is, I know I can't help it. Whenever I'm anywhere, I'm thinking about like what goes into the business of this thing, right? I'm fascinated by that. So it's like, okay, I know nothing about hotels, But what goes into the business of this in terms of the soap, right? The towels, the thickness of the robes, the service at the pool. Like, what goes into that in terms of the decisions they make about, and this is my point, how nice is it? And here's the thing, right? Like, I'm sure there's an executive somewhere we were at a Sheraton, so Marriott. I'm sure there's an executive at Marriott, a whole team of executives at Marriott who are looking very closely at their profit margins. But if you're an executive who says, here's what we're going to do, we're going to make all our hotels terrible, and people are going to be miserable when they stay there, and we're not going to stock soap, and they're going to have to bring their own soap, but we're going to save so much money. All the other executives are going to be like, are you kidding? Like, we have to be, the whole point here is people pay us a lot of money to stay at a nice place, and paying for the stuff is part of the deal there. We make a lot of money on this thing, undoubtedly, but we do it in part by making it a nice experience. And if you degrade the experience, then people won't pay to stay here. And I thought immediately about Apple, which is that same argument, which is you can't just say, welcome to the iPhone. You paid $1,000 for it. It's crappy, but if you pay us money, we'll make it not crappy. Like, that is so antithetical to Apple's whole product philosophy, and it's the wrong thing for anybody to do. And so I don't know how this is going to go, but when I look at Eddy Cue come in and say, what are we doing with Health Plus? These should just be features in the Health app, some of them, and others of them are no good, and we'll just go back to the drawing board for them. I'm actually encouraged, because that's what Apple executives should be doing right now, is they should be looking at their base product and saying, is this product good enough? Not saying, let's take the things that are going to make our product good and put them behind a paywall, because that is a mistake for a company like Apple, because these products are I'm not even going to say luxury accommodations. They are the nice accommodations of technology. The whole idea here is you get an iPhone or a Mac and it's nice, or an iPad and it's nice. And if you shift your mindset to be, I don't want it to be nice, I want it to be an upsell to the nice thing. Services revenue is great, but you gotta do the base level first, right? So I don't know how it's gonna work out, but I love Eddy Cue basically saying this is bad, and this stuff and this other stuff should just be in the app. Why are we? It seems very sensible. It seems like the exact right thing to do. We don't know the details of it, but there it is. So we'll see.
Yeah, he says that, like, he wants them to be more competitive with their competitors in the wellness market. Companies like Oura Ring, yeah, and Whoop and companies like that.
Yeah.
And he's just like, what they were building, he says, did not meet the bar.
It really has the vibe to, I mean, who knows? But it has the vibe to me of a team that was so focused on, we're Apple, we're just building stuff, and that somebody came in with a fresh breath of reality and was like, no, you were behind. Like, nobody wanted to say how bad the Health app was.
Yeah.
They're like, but we've got all these things and we're building this service. And Eddy Cue came in and said, are you kidding? and this is what I was saying when we talk about executive changes. This is one of the reasons executive changes are good. In this case, it's an executive who's been around forever, but he hasn't been in charge of this. This is why executive changes are good, because it allows somebody to come in with fresh eyes and also without ego invested in the previous decision making and say, this is no good, we need to change. It's super important. It's actually one of the reasons I'm optimistic about the future of Apple, is because they're going to have a lot of turnover. And I think there's a lot of kind of like well-held opinions that have never been revisited happening, where if you get somebody new, they give you, I mean, the example I always give is Tim Cook coming in and doing employee donation matching the day after he took over. It's like, sometimes it just takes a new person in there to say, oh no, we're not going to do it like that anymore. So I may be reading too much into this, but I love the report that Eddy Cue came in and said this isn't good enough, because I want to hear more of that.
So they say stuff like some features, like there's content that they made that they'll use, and maybe some AI-powered suggestions for the health app, which I've said that should just be in the app. You're completely right. You shouldn't charge for that stuff. It's not enough to charge for. Come up with something worth charging for if you're going to charge for it. This episode is brought to you by 1Password. It's easy to assume that being small means flying under the radar, but the reality is that small businesses are being targeted more and more by bad actors. Cybercriminals know that lean teams can lack the resources to prevent or respond to a breach. Teams of any size can be a target, but the good news is even the smallest teams can foil cybercrime because 1Password provides simple security to help small teams manage their number one risk that bad actors exploit, which is weak passwords. They provide centralized management to make sure your company's logins are secure. It is a simple turnkey solution that can be rolled out in hours, whether you have dedicated IT staff or not. For small teams, responsibility for security often defaults to one employee who's juggling other business functions. The most effective security solutions will need to be intuitive and easy to understand and user-friendly so that everyone at your company can and will use it. Because as small businesses grow, they may add tools or roles without updating access controls. This results in security risks that compound over time. Prepare for that now with security that can meet you where you are, even as your security needs change. 1Password's Enterprise Password Manager helps your company eliminate security headaches and improve security by identifying weak and compromised passwords and replacing them with strong, unique credentials, letting you securely store and share developer secrets and other sensitive data. Simple, automated workflows mean your team can enforce security compliance and prevent breaches, potentially preventing millions of dollars in losses. It's the single most impactful investment you can make in your company's security. I've been using 1Password for longer than I can remember, and I love it as part of a team because it's really easy to share logins with who needs them and remove them when they don't. I find that stuff to be really valuable, and I also love that it's great to know that people who are creating credentials for accounts that are important to your business are going to be using good, secure passwords when they use 1Password. Take the first step to better security by securing your team's credentials. Find out more at onepassword.com/upgrade and start securing every login. That's onepassword.com/upgrade. Go there and check it out. Our thanks to 1Password for their support of this show and Relay. It is time for some Ask Upgrade questions. Brandon says, I absolutely love using an Apple Pencil on my iPad mini. With the iPhone Fold rumored to be around the same size, do you think they may offer a crayon-sized Apple Pencil finally for the Fold? Little guy.
I would love it. I've been saying I would love them to do a little pencil for a while now. I will say, in the e-reader market, pens for like little note-taking pen things are all the rage.
Yeah.
Part of that is the e-reader market is trying to find people who are not just book readers, and so having people who can take notes and stuff like that. It's not just like they're remarkable. It's like all like Kobo and Kindle, like everybody's got a pen. So I think that would be interesting, right? Especially if we view it as kind of like an iPad mini when it's open. My gut is that they won't do it because they haven't done it up to now, but this would be a product where they could do it.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I'm not sure that the Fold will have a pencil support to it. I think, it all depends on how strong that screen is, right? Do you end up creating a scenario where you're adding in potential for damage? Like, I'm going to be keen to see what the strength of that screen is.
That, I think, is the real question here, right? Which is, you add anything to that thing. Is it just like, I feel like everything's on a razor's edge with that thing. So to add pencil support at all might be too much for this version of it. But I think it's a great direction because I do think the idea that you've got a little notepad and you can open it up and you can write, like, I think that's a cool extra use that leans into the whole iPadness of the phone, which I think they want to do. But technically it may not be possible.
John says, how do you predict the future of GarageBand? Ooh, I said that in multiple weird ways.
Hello, mate. GarageBand.
GarageBand and iMovie in the wake of Create Studio.
GarageBand. I don't know. Apple likes having like low-end non-pro creative apps, I guess. And so predict the future. I think they'll just kind of keep the low ebb of whatever they're doing around, and that'll be just what they are. I don't think it's going to be more than that.
I want Apple to make in the Creator Studio an app for podcasters. Just a focused.
It would be nice.
Recording and editing app.
It would be nice.
Should make that.
Yeah, that would be great.
You connect over FaceTime. You can record your audio, share it between people, and then you have a simplified audio editing suite. That's what they should make. Like,
yeah,
GarageBand used to have this in it, right? Like it had like
it did, and they took it out.
Took it away.
They took it out. They removed podcasting features from GarageBand.
And like the reason he took it away is because people weren't making podcasts en masse, right? Now they really are.
One of the things. Well, and they obviously don't want that product to have those features, because I wrote a piece for Macworld long before I left Macworld that said you could add these 3 features to GarageBand and it would be the perfect podcast editing app. And guess what? They never added any of those features, even though it's based on Logic now. They never added any of those features. Now, I would argue at this point you'd put them in the Creator Studio, right? You'd put them in Logic, or you'd make another spinoff. Logic could just have a podcasting mode, but whatever. They just are not interested in that. So that's where we are.
I just want them to do it. Like, make a little podcast app. It'd be so good. Anyway, Sam says, would you expect the CEO executive transition to be announced before or after WWDC? And what would you imagine to be Cook and Turnus's roles, respectively, in the keynote in either case?
I don't know. I guess I'm going to predict that it's going to happen. I'm just off the top of my head. I predict it's going to happen toward the end of the year, after the iPhones are out and any other products are released, out toward November or December. It'll be a late in the year kind of thing. And that will be the transition point. I think once Cook is the chairman, John Turnus is going to do the intro, but he may also introduce products a little more Steve Jobs-like, or he may not. But I think once Cook is not the CEO, we will not see him in a video again.
Wow, that's an interesting.
Why would the chairman of the board be in a video? I don't see it.
He's not the chairman, but I get your point, right? Like, again, he's not like the current. I wouldn't expect the current chairman to
Arthur Levinson appears. Hello, everybody. I'm Arthur Levinson. Welcome to the Apple.
I wouldn't rule it out that we may see him, but I don't think he would be like the presenter. I do expect, if it doesn't happen before WWDC, I expect John Turnus's role to be Craig Federighi-like in its
more visible,
at WWDC and others. I actually do think when he becomes CEO, he will be more Jobs-like in presenting some product stuff.
It depends in part on who they've got. Like, do they like him as a presenter? Which I think they do. And so you could replace him, right? But he does it, and he does a good job.
Yeah.
And so I think that that's possible, which is, I guess that would be the counter argument, is if you still want John Turnus to present some stuff, you might lead with Tim Cook just doing an intro, even if he's the chair, because he's just sort of like, hi, everybody, it's Tim. John's got a great program, and here it is. But I think more likely he'll just disappear, and the question is, how much does John Turnus do? But he might do, I'll put it this way. We remember how much Jobs did and how little Tim Cook does. I would say Turnus will almost certainly do more than what Tim Cook does, because he is a product guy.
Like, I could imagine, say, the iPhone, right? I don't think we'll see Jaws anymore.
Oh, interesting.
Right? I think that my expectation would be you would see Turnus at the beginning, he would throw off to everybody else, and then it would come back around to the Pro, and Turnus again shows off the Pro.
At night.
Because I think, let's not take away the opportunities for other people, different faces, but like, love Jaws. We don't need Jaws in that moment, right? Like, he's not like a new face. He's not like an up-and-comer in the organization.
Yeah, well, and
so
he could do a segment of some sort, but it's all being led by Turnus. I think that's a good scenario, but But if I had to pick right now, based on nothing other than we feel this is coming, but we don't know when, my feeling is more get past WWDC and get past the iPhone launches in the fall and then bring him in. But, anything could happen. That's just a complete shot in the dark.
I'm gonna throw out a better prediction than just the word touchscreen, right?
Low bar.
The iPhone Fold, all Turnus.
Yeah.
Right? Jaws does the Pro and Pro Max, and then we throw it to John, and John shows off the iPhone Fold. He will be the person. I mean, he may not say the words, right? It might go to Tim to say the words, but the person who will show it to us and demo it and talk about it, that will be John Turnus.
That'll be the one more thing. Yep.
Speaking of which, final question today, Logan wrote in and says, do you think that iPhone Fold will actually be called iPhone Fold? It feels like Apple could go for a cooler name, perhaps something like iPhone Passport or iPhone Folio. I don't think those are the names either. I've been thinking about this, right? Fold says what it does and follows the convention set by Samsung, right? Like, it is a thing that we understand. But my counterpoint to this is I was very surprised by the name Vision Pro. Like, that was no one had that name. You know, like, I can't even remember what we thought it was going to be called now. But we all thought it was going to be called a thing. What do you think, naming? What do you think?
I think Fold is the most likely only because it does what it says on the tin.
Yep.
But I think it's probably something else.
Because here's my thinking as well. It's like, yes, it does say that. Does Apple think this will be the only product that they ship with a folding screen? Right? Because if you think you might ship a different form factor as well, like have two phones,
sure,
or if you think you may ship a folding iPad one day or a folding laptop, it would not make sense to have a product called Fold.
And by the way, we've had this before, this question of like, well, why wouldn't you just call it like something else or iPad or something like that? And the answer is because it's got to be an iPhone. It's an iPhone.
It's got to be an iPhone.
It's going to be
iPhone something.
Because it's the biggest product in the world. It's going to be iPhone something. Yeah, I don't know. I didn't see this question. Like, I've been running through my head like other phrases, because what we need to do is you put together like a little brainstorming session where we talk about like we were all taken by the idea that if the dimensions are what we think they are, it's a little squatter and wider, and it's a little more like a notebook that opens. But notebook has sort of been taken. iPhone book. But folio is not terrible, and that's a word that Apple has in its lexicon. And there may be some others too.
I think Federico said Duo. He came up. It was a name that he put out there. But like again, it's like things. They're just like other things you can say.
Yeah, so that's where I am right now. Is I think iPhone Fold is the most likely name for it, but I would put its chances at under 50% because I feel like it so does what it says on the tin that I think Apple will probably strive to be better and to use a word that explains something about it. But I'm at a loss right now. I'm going to have to do some more brainstorming. I'm at a loss right now for how else this name could go. But, and maybe it is just a superlative. That's the other thing, is it really could be iPhone Ultra or something like that. But I think Fold is the most likely. I just think it's probably something more clever than that we haven't thought of.
Yes, I agree with that completely. If you would like to send us in a question for a future episode, go to upgradefeedback.com and you can send in your own Ask Upgrade question. You can also send in your follow-up as well if you have any for us. I would like to thank our members who support us every week with Upgrade Plus. They get longer ad-free episodes of the show each and every week. Today we're going to be talking about a tea incident that happened to Jason this morning that he started to tell me, and I said, stop telling me this story.
Save it for the podcast.
I want to hear it for Upgrade Plus, so that'll be fun. Go to getupgradeplus.com to find out more. You can find us on YouTube by searching for Upgrade Podcast. Thank you to our sponsors, 1Password, Factor, and Delete Me. And most of all, thank you for listening. Until next time, say goodbye, Jason Snell.
Goodbye, Mike Hurley.